Dirt, have you seen Ozark?
I haven't seen that either.
What is your problem?
I gotta catch up.
Dirt, you're fired. You have to go.
Dirt, time for you to get more of the world in you, Dirt. Time for you to get more dirty.
I gotta
That's
watch
what
some
it's
TV,
time to
yeah.
get more morally nuanced. Welcome to The Aggressive Life. Sometimes I hear somebody talk, I bump into somebody, and I just go, you, I need you on my podcast. Please, pretty please, would you do it? And today that guy said yes. His name is Mark Williams. He has produced some of the places where I have wasted the most time in my life. He is the man responsible for Ozarks from Netflix. Yes, I am one guy who will admit I actually watched it. Jason Bateman and Laura Linney. How about the most underrated movie ever that keeps building steam? We're talking with him about that. The Accountant, starring Ben Affleck, or The Honest Thief or Backlight, starring Liam Neeson. My wife has seen every single Liam Neeson movie there is. Like, I'm actually getting concerned about it. Like, he's older than me. He's skinnier than me. Why must you continue to watch him? I don't know. Well, I don't get it, but he's there. Anyway, Mark, as he was talking about some of his projects and an upcoming project he has, which is why he was speaking where I was, I was really just struck by him and his outlook and his drive and all that stuff. He's been making some aggressive moves, and he's with us here today. Welcome to The Aggressive Life, Mark Williams.
Thank you, Brian. It was a pleasure meeting you when I did, and I'm happy to be showing up in your world as well. So I read your little bio and press kit before this, and it struck me that the aggressive life is a very good theme for where we are in today's society, and especially as men trying to figure out who we are. And so I appreciate you actually taking on that angle and living it and pushing it, because I think it's really important for us to speak to each other and really understand, how we can be who we want to be and how to get,
Right.
how to get there, really.
Well, when I think of Hollywood, when a lot of us think about Hollywood, we probably do think of aggressive, but it's probably not a positive aggressive. We think of, at least I do, cutthroat, money driven, all the negative connotations with aggressive stuff. But when I heard you, obviously you've got a level of aggression. You don't have this number of successes by theorizing and philosophizing about something. You're going at it. And then when I heard about your most recent project, we'll get into in a little bit, I thought, oh wow, that's a big deal. But I'm curious, like, just tell us, like, what is it to be a Hollywood producer, to produce these movies? Like, what does that mean? Tell me the process.
I guess it means a lot of different things, and there's so many people that you see listed as producer on any given project. So everybody plays a different role, but my role tends to be in the creative space, where I'm coming up with the idea, developing the scripts, packaging it with the right director, the right actors, finding the money, and then obviously being on set to produce it and to make sure that it is everything that we want it to be. And then obviously getting into the editing room and then talking about distribution and marketing and all of that. So it's basically a bit of everything. And now no one person can do it on their own. So it takes an army and a team to really figure it out. But somebody needs to be helping and driving it and keeping it all together to really shepherd these things through.
So what's the timeline like? Take us to the real world with The Accountant. If you haven't, I won't ruin the end for you, but it's basically Ben Affleck is a geek. He's a geek. Yes. He's an accountant, and he's got this sinister underside to him from his dysfunctional background that pops up and leads us on just an action adventure. It's really, really strong. So, like, when did you find out about this project? How do you put that together? What's the time frame? Could you just give us that insight?
Literally every project is different. So I'll give you this example, but the next project you ask me about will be completely different. And if you
All
were
right.
asking me or any other producer, so I had the original idea. I'm gonna use dates just to give you perspective. I had the original idea in 2007. I had the idea for the accountant. I had the idea for what he did for a job and the kind of character he was, the world he lived in. And I pitched it to a writer in 2008, and we started developing it as a script. So in 2008 to 2009, we wrote the script. He wrote the script. I helped develop it with him. And then we started from there on. I started packaging it, trying to find the right partners, whether it be directors, actors, and whatnot. And I had success. I found a director, then I'd find an actor, then I'd find some money, and then it would fall apart. And then I would start changing out different pieces of the puzzle. So really, it took from 2007 from the idea till it was released in 2016 to really
Wow.
put it all together. And obviously, it got better over the course of time because I ended up getting bigger stars, bigger director, and obviously Warner Brothers to be my partner on the financing and distribution side. So that was a success story that you go, oh, it was amazing, it came out, but it really was 9 years of process for me to get it to the screen.
9 years. Are there times where I assume there's times when you're waiting on somebody to give their decision and it's just parked in a drawer with no activity for months on end. I assume that's the way that works, right?
On and on and on. It's a lot of waiting, and that's partly why I live a lot of my life in the independent world because I feel like every day with an independent movie I can push forward on something. I don't have to wait on somebody else to do something, a studio to do something. I can try a different angle. I can try a different actor. I can try a different director. So it just gives me that little bit more freedom than a studio, which you are literally waiting for the studio to make those moves, which can take months.
So independent means you're just doing your own thing, financing the whole thing. You're outside of a studio. Is that what that means?
Independent basically is yes. You're not associated with what we now call the studios or streamers or pretty much studios at this point too. Well, they are studios at this point. And so for us, it's about making movies that are outside the system. Now you want to use their distribution because they're obviously very good at just distributing movies and television and everything else. But if you can put your cast together, if you can get your director's script together and finance it outside, then that's what's considered independent. And then you can bring it to the studios later for distribution.
Okay, so you still got to crack the distribution nut afterwards, because if you're not getting distributed, then you've made something that may be a waste, right?
That is one of the big hiccups that people have, and I have ways around it in my own world and how I'm doing it, but yes, it certainly is a challenge that everybody faces and everybody hears about it. You read about Sundance Festival or Toronto Film Festival, and this movie played there, and then you never see it again, and that's the problem that
Right.
independent films sometimes face, especially when they're less than commercial.
What's the what's the difference of the environment in your line of work with the streaming platforms? Because it was always sort of prophesied, if you will, that people are going to be streaming and watching their TVs, and they've been they've been prophesying that since 1980, and nothing really seemed to happen with it until boom, in the last 5 years or so ago, things going straight to Netflix, Amazon making things not going to the theaters. I go to a theater, my local theater when I go to, it's a horrible experience, utterly horrible. I've actually preached on it and named it, and I wish I could find the manager and shame them publicly because it should be a great experience. It's just a horrible experience. So only one of those guys are like, no, if I can watch it at home, I'll watch it at home because it's too frustrating to go out. So now it's here, right? All the stats and the money trail seems to say we're in that world right now. Has that changed your job or Hollywood in terms of the production of content?
Not really the production. I mean, I think you have to decide whether you want to do a movie for Netflix, which will be on Netflix, or you do a movie for Warner Brothers, where they'll say they'll put it out in theaters, or you do independent and then you figure it out later. I mean, there is a hybrid now, which Amazon is doing, which is sometimes they just send it straight to their streaming platform, and sometimes they'll take it theatrical, and I get that is that is the goal of most filmmakers. And I'm a producer, but I'm also a director. And so as a director, it's almost like, do I want to make that movie that goes straight to streaming? Now, a lot of eyeballs will see it, but there's something about seeing your movie on the big screen that is satisfying, and to have a group of people watch it together and experience it together is satisfying. So it's a mix, and sometimes you just want to get your movie made, and you know what, Netflix will spend a lot of money on it and you'll get paid and everything else. So there's a benefit to that for sure. But also it's the catch-22 of, do I want to see it in theaters and have it be worldwide and have everybody find it and talk about it.
So for you and others like you, it's still top shelf to be in a theater and have that group communal experience.
Definitely, for a movie, that's definitely the goal for most every director and producer, is to have it in theaters. And obviously, the economics need to work out, but the driver of success in streaming tends to be the theatrical. So if you have a
It still
movie that
is.
comes out theatrically and does well, more people will end up watching it in streaming anyway. Just like the days of the VHS or DVDs, people would go to see it in theaters, but then other people would find it, at home on their DVDs, and or through Netflix when they were sending out the DVDs through the mail, but because they heard about it, they were aware of it through the theatrical marketing, really, and then also word of mouth that came from people seeing it in theaters. And so
So
it
that's
does
still the
matter.
way it is. I thought that was negated now, but you're saying that's not negative. It's still top shelf, get in theaters first, and then the streaming platforms. That's the way you and your peers want it to be.
That's the ideal, yes, for sure. And yeah, and some will obviously will take those paydays and go do it straight for streaming, but there's no question that theatrical is the priority.
How did you get into this? What was your first baby steps into being in the movie industry?
When I went to boarding school in Connecticut, and I'll do this one really quickly. But I went to boarding school in Connecticut, and when I first got there, they had built a photo lab, brand new, fancy photo lab, better than any college in the country, really. And I just spent 4 years in a photo lab, so I took every class. They started inventing classes for me, and I just fell in love with the art. And so for me, I didn't know what that really meant, and so I went off and got a normal college degree at Vanderbilt, and then after that, I went to University of Miami grad school, film school. And then I learned more of the art of making movies and whatnot. And then from there, I realized if I were writing, I could at least control what I had in front of me. And so I started writing when I was still in grad school, and then became a writer for a while. I'm still a writer, but that was my only hat for a minute.
And you went and you did that, but it seems like it's a far cry of writing something and being the chess master who's pulling all those pieces together.
So then I came to Hollywood. My first script did very well. Got attention. I got an agent. I started having a lot of meetings. I got hired for numerous jobs as a writer. But then they have this thing in Hollywood called development hell, where your movie gets seen, bought, whatever, but then it doesn't get made. And so all of a sudden you're just doing rewrites upon rewrites, or you're looking to sell new projects or write new things, and you're just not seeing what you came to do, which is actually see your movie on screen. And so I didn't come here to be a writer. I didn't come to Hollywood to be a writer. I came to be a movie maker. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what job position that technically was, but I knew it wasn't just a writer that watched my stuff die. So I said, oh, I'm going to be a producer, because at least as a producer, I can get up every morning and I can fight for what I believe in, whether it's something I wrote or somebody else wrote. At least I can try to make it happen. And that was really when I changed to that hat. It opened up a lot of doors for me, just because I'm built to be a producer in the sense that I
Yeah.
have that constant drive of that. And like you say, it's not aggression and like I'm going to go yell at somebody. It's the aggression of like, I'm going to push to get something done every day. I'm going to push and will it into existence. And that's really what I've been doing for a long time now.
I like that. Will it into existence. That's an interesting phrase. I like that. But it seems like there's a huge difference in gears. If writing a script is first gear, it seems to me that producing and pulling all these intangibles together in a long process, that's like fifth gear. Like that's a big shift. I think, right? From writing to making accountant? What was your first big success, you would say?
Well, I've had numerous along the way that I success for me, not necessarily,
Yeah, for you.
box office. I was lucky enough to be a part of The Cooler in 2002, which was a big Sundance hit. Alec Baldwin was nominated for an Academy Award. So that was my first taste of what it was to actually make a movie.
Oh,
Um, and
okay.
then, and then in 2006 was a big moment for me. I made my first bigger independent international minded movie called Flawless, not the one that you think of with De Niro, but it's with Demi Moore and Michael Caine, and it's a heist movie set in the 1960s London. And I got to see
Oh,
the how
yeah.
movies are made and financed and sold around the world. So that for me was a big eye-opening experience to see what the actual mechanics of not only making the movie, which I was on set, but also to put the financing together, to sell it, to really make it happen. So from there, I just a lot of cogs clicked together in my head to say, okay, this is how you
Interesting.
can do it. So you can repeat this if you have all the right pieces that line that up. So that was obviously a big moment for me. When I made The Accountant in 2015, that obviously was a game changer from the size and scope, because that was a
Right.
big movie with a big movie star, with Warner Brothers putting it out. It did very well, and so uh, it just these different moments pop up, but they're over a course of a lot of time of pushing a lot of things and trying to make them happen, and some hit and some don't.
You mentioned the heist movie. I've always wondered, what is it that draws people to heist movies? I don't know anybody who doesn't like a heist movie. You're always rooting for them to steal it, even if they're stealing money out of a senior citizen's home. I always am. I don't know what the magic of the heist movie is. Am I the only one? I'm certainly not the only one. They keep making them. Mark, give me the hidden psychology as to why people like me are so drawn to it.
I think we want to know that they can get away with it. I mean, I think we all have that just little bit of intrigue in
Right.
ourselves of like, could I rob a bank? I mean, I'm not saying you
Right.
will, and not really going to make that step, but it's an interesting concept of that's one way to go, and it's just sitting right there, and so I think we do root for the anti-hero a lot, and I think that is something that it's an interesting, let's call it a dilemma that we face right now too, because
Yes.
we shouldn't always be rooting for the anti-hero. There's
Yes.
something great about heroes, like just straight up heroes, the John Waynes of the world, and it's just
Yeah.
we don't have those as much anymore. Tom Cruise does a pretty good job of sticking to that genre, but we lean into that anti-hero, and I think it's because it's more interesting, because
Mm, mm.
what they live in, those characters live in, and this is something that I focus on, is they live in the world of gray. Like, we're not black and we're not white. It's not good people and bad people. Bad people have some good qualities. Good people have some bad qualities. So we all are living in this world of gray. And so to explore a gray character who's making decisions. Now, if you really look at some of the decisions that they're making and look at their motivations, you can also relate to their motivations. If you just have a criminal robbing a bank because I want the money, and I screw the world and screw this bank and all these people, then you're not going to root for it. But if their
Right.
motivation is, hey, my kid needs an operation, or I'm trying to do it for a better purpose, or even if it's a personal purpose, at least you care for the character. And so that's the world of gray. And Breaking Bad obviously was a great example of a
Right.
guy who was just trying to survive enough to support his family when he was going through a bad situation.
That's a fascinating theory. I was thinking it might be, well, we all want secretly more money and trying to figure out how to get more money, and so we're rooting for that guy who's getting more money. But I like your theory even better. We all know that we're complex individuals, and we have a lot of gray inside of all of us, and therefore we identify with someone who's in there. That I like that. I like if I had to name my top 10 movies, I bet five of them are heist movies. I can't count how many times I've watched The Score. Have you
Yeah,
seen The Score?
yeah, yeah.
I was
Multiple
I was
times.
hoping I could school a Hollywood producer on a movie they hadn't seen that I'd blow your mind with. That's an amazing movie. The other one with gosh, Ben Affleck was in. No, was it Ben Affleck in it? It's horrible when you start talking about a movie and you can't remember the name of the movie. Ben Affleck there is one. He's a thief. The city. Is that what it is? Where he's running the thief. Yeah, is that right? The township, the village,
the town. Great
there
movie.
It is.
Yes, it was a great movie.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
And it was also very cool because it was in this little world that he lived in Boston, right? And so you got to know these characters in this very small world, and they all had that one goal, and they each had their own little reasons for doing it, and that's what you're rooting for, really. And obviously at the end of the day, for him, it was the heart came out, and that's something I always look for is working the heart be a part of this story. It's not just about I got money, yay, I win, but the heart, whether it's a relationship with another adult or with a child or a dog or whatever it is, it's nice to have that heart in every story.
So Ozark, sorry to make you keep doing behind the scenes. You probably get asked the same questions all the time, so I'm sorry, but a number of listeners have probably heard your answers. Ozark, a hyper guilty pleasure. I watched that show and I said, I shouldn't watch another episode because this is really dark. And then I watched an episode. And I go, okay, that's about. I was happy the lawyer chick got her brains blown out at the end of season, whatever it was. Happy she did, but I can't watch it anymore. It's just too much. And then there I am, turning back in the next season, like the sinner I am, watching unwholesome entertainment. Watch the whole thing. It was freaking amazing. How does the Ozark come into being?
Ozark was an interesting thing. So the writer that worked on The Accountant with me, who wrote The Accountant, lives in St. Louis, and he would vacation in the Ozarks at the Lake of the Ozarks because his family had a cabin on the lake. And so I'd call him and we'd be talking about some movie or some other script that we were working on. And then I'd say, hey, tell me what you're looking at. And he would just describe things that were in the Ozarks. And so I kept taking a mental note of that's weird and that's odd. And that's an interesting world that I think I should know, but I have no idea. I've never really been there and I never explored it and everything else. So I just started doing a deep dive. And then I started thinking about, well, what would be the perfect character to put into that world and then have things go very bad. And so then I started formulating what that could be, and then I started working with that writer and figuring it out what it could really look like, and that's how it came about. And then we started writing that, and that's the opposite of The Accountant. I mean, once we started writing that to production was probably a year and a half. And we really, we had two scripts. We had the first script, the second script, first episode, second episode, and what we call a Bible, a series Bible. And then we went to Jason Bateman, and really his reaction was overwhelmingly positive. And so from there we went and looked for a home for it. And Netflix jumped at the chance, and they said, we would like to do the whole season. This was early days of Netflix when they'd just done House of Cards, but they had no other, not that many other shows. And so they came in and said, we'd like to do the whole season. And so we obviously jumped at that chance, and and they've done such a great job with it, and made it as big as it could be on their platform, and really supported it. And obviously, the cast, the crew, the whole team just did such an amazing job of seeing it through for 5 seasons, and got all the award recognition and everything else. So
it's hard to imagine any of the actors you cast finding a better actor for that. They were all just nailed it.
Yeah, we got lucky.
Netflix, I'm curious about the economics now. When they get a hit like that, how many new subscribers do they get? How many do they retain? Do you know the metrics on that?
I mean, I'm sure they have them. It's not something that I necessarily know the facts on. They obviously, it's a key thing is to keep subscribers, and they keep adding, worldwide. And I think that's the difference of, when we started to now is they've expanded so much, not only in the U.S. but around the entire world. So, what I've experienced, and I can't speak to numbers, but anywhere I go in the world, people know Ozark, and a lot of people know it very well. And so I just think it's it's spread and everybody finds it, one way or another, or they've heard of it because of their friends watched it or family watched it. So I just think they've cracked the nut. I mean, they know how to get subscribers, keep subscribers. I don't think people necessarily turn off their subscriptions for Netflix. They
Yeah.
just wait for the next thing, which pops up obviously fairly often.
When you think of people of faith, like myself, and you as well, if you think of people of faith and in the realms in which we reside, church work, Christian media, I'll just keep on church work. Storytelling, it seems like we don't do as good of a job telling a story as you do in the rest of Hollywood. Why is that? Maybe you even disagree with what I just said.
I think pastors tell great stories on Sundays. I think they're very good at weaving in their personal stories or something that happened in their world, and then they relate it to the Bible, or they relate it to some important message that they're trying to get clear. They're actually very good storytellers, and some are better than others, and some are amazing. And it really, obviously, you're one of them that can grab an audience and keep them. But I think when they're trying to do movies, I feel like they aren't looking at the real world. They're looking at their bubble of not only the viewers, their audience, but also just that they're trying to just do the right good thing, and it's just not realistic to the world. I mean, we're all living in the same world. Let's not pretend, because you're a Christian, you're living in a different world than anybody else. So, the Christians have seen Ozark. You don't have to be, a non-Christian to see Ozark, right? And so I
Yep.
think it's really, really important that you start leaning the storytelling to the real world, to the modern day. And yes, you can be a little bit more gentle with your language or the sex elements of it all, or violence, or whatever it is, because not all stories require sex, violence, and bad words, right? You can do it in a different way, and you can still get your message across, whether it's about doing good or following in Jesus' footsteps without even mentioning Jesus. I mean, you could just have somebody do good and still represent the same thing. But when you start preaching in a story, then all of a
Yeah.
sudden the rest of the world goes, well, I don't really want to be preached to. That's not who I am. So I'm going to turn this off. And so I think it's just about finding those stories or presenting stories in a way that is less preachy, more has a good heart. But by the way, the key really is also entertain. You need to entertain
Yes.
first before you get to
Right.
your message. If you do not
Right.
entertain, the message is going to be not heard because they're going to turn it
Right.
off, right? So
Right.
entertain first, and then you can bring your message. So one thing that I'm doing, I have this company, Zero Gravity Management, which we represent writers, directors, actors, below the line, and all that in Hollywood and around the world. And that's partly how I develop material with them and my writers, and we try to figure out ways to make movies. And a lot of it, obviously, as you just listed off, has that darker element. And probably because action sells, and also I like blowing things up, and so it kind of goes hand in hand. But I also have a division that's run by my wife, actually, Andriana, who is a hardcore Christian, and it's called Inspire. So the whole division is called Inspire, and she's doing inspirational movies that really speak to the communities that you're talking about, but not by hand feeding them what they've already seen. And she really
Yes.
worked hard to give those redemption stories or aspirational heroes, because that's what's important more so than just preaching to the audience. So we are taking a big focus with this division to bring stories to the world that are more rounded in telling, but still get
Yeah.
the core of the message across. And you mentioned On the Steep at the beginning of the podcast, and that was a story starring Liam Neeson and Kate Walsh, and it's a heist movie. He's a thief, but he wants to give the money back, and he wants to give the money back because he's fallen in love with this woman. And so, really, it's a story of redemption, but it's also second chances. And I think that fits into the Inspire world because it's something that we can all relate to. We do bad things, and how do we
Yeah.
get out of that hole? And in
Yes.
this case, obviously, you're at Liam Neeson, so it's not going to be the easiest thing to get out of a hole. And bad guys are going to come, and you're going to have to use your intellect and your fists and everything else. But it's inspirational in that it's his second chance, and to get that second chance, he's going to find redemption if he can do it right. And that's brought on by love. So that's the heart element.
When you say some of the quote unquote Christian media can get preachy, are you saying, is that when some character goes off on a 4-minute monologue that you would hear in church, or is there something else when you say gets preachy? What's it mean for something to get preachy?
That's that would be the obvious for me is to just go off and, oh, I've heard that in church. I've heard that's what I hear in church. And so therefore, they're bringing it to some characters it's okay to do that. In some characters that's part of the storyline. And in Ozark we had a preacher in the story. It's not
Yeah.
like we can't have
And he
preachers.
was honorable.
Yeah. And I don't mind having that in there, but and they obviously are going to say their messages, but it's just how you present it to an audience, and then make sure you also show the harder things in life, and just don't do the soft sell of this is, hey, we're all good people, let's all get along. Yes, we have our troubles, but we'll come back together. I mean, you can have all that, but do it
Right.
with some edge, do it with some cool factor, blow some things up. I mean, there's no reason why Christians can't blow things
Right.
up.
Hell yeah. Damn
See?
straight. God bless America.
Exactly.
Right. 100% right. I love the characters in your productions, Mark. They're really complex. You think you have them figured out, but you don't. They're gray sheep, to just use our color of the day. They're gray sheep. They're compelling, and I have a hard time seeing a through line through all of them. But you have something to do with character development that makes you root for these characters who aren't your standard characters. You're just rooting for them. Do you have some like checklist before you? It says, before I have a compelling character, make sure they have this. They have let's add a little bit of this in. Is there a standard question that you have to make sure you have somebody who's compelling but also avant-garde and outside the norm?
Well, yeah, yes and no, and probably it's just more in my head than an actual written
Yeah.
checklist that I can give you. But what I fear most in storytelling is the cliche. We've all seen way too many movies. We've seen way too much television. We know what's going to happen next for most things, and that's where I really try to avoid it. And so when I'm looking at plot, I'm like, how can I do a plot that isn't something that we've seen before? You still have to get to those big beats that everybody expects, because otherwise you don't get to an ending. But you know, the way you can do it in a more interesting way is have those beats and try to do them a little bit different. But if your character is coming at them from a different point of view and how they treat those beats, then it can be more interesting. The accountant is an obvious example for me. The guy's got Asperger's. He's on the spectrum, and when he looks at something, he's looking at it very differently than the average person that would look at it. He's very methodical. He's very organized in his brain, very mathematical, and so everything he does, every choice he makes is based on his personality and his symptoms of being Asperger's. So by sticking with that, that makes his character more interesting from the get go, and then you just have to see it through, and you can't veer off at some point and make him any different. And that's why for those who did see the accountant, he can't fall in love at the end. That's not one of the traits that he has,
Right.
as an Asperger's thing. So he can get close to it. He can feel it. We can feel the emotion and the heart, and we're like hoping, but you can't necessarily bring him all the way there because that's not true to his character. So that motivation of character is really important as well, and making sure that you understand their motivations, and not all people's motivations are the same, and so you can add character traits, you can add different motivations, combine them, and that's how you create a new character.
Have you seen The Accountant, Dirt?
I have not. But,
You have not.
But now I need to go see it.
You're welcome. Let me just say that. You're welcome.
That's going to be my
Because you're
homework
going to watch
tonight.
that, you're going to be unless you're like, are you like not into violent movies?
No, that's fine.
Dude,
That's fine.
you're going to freaking lose your freaking mind. I'm telling you right now.
Can't wait.
You're going to lose
Can't
your
wait.
freaking mind. You're going to go take a bath when you're done because you're going to be sweating. Your pores are going to be sweating. Mark, he's very dirty. That's why we call him Dirt. He doesn't take showers. He's in the wintertime, he's wearing Chacos, just grimy stuff in between his toes. So
Welcome to Ohio, I guess. I don't know.
right. No, that's right. So when you
Speaking
look
of
at these,
Ohio,
Mark,
I did shoot a movie partly in Ohio, The Marksman, starring Liam Neeson. We shot that in and around Cleveland, actually, and that was a good experience, although cold and dreary at the time of year. But we had some fun blowing things
Cleveland,
up, and
though, you
flipping
said?
cars. It was just outside of Cleveland, yeah.
Yeah, well, if you had a good experience in Cleveland, good for you, man. You're a good man.
Thank you.
All our Cleveland listeners are really upset
They're
right
out.
now.
They're done.
They're
They're
out.
gone.
I love your Cleveland listeners. Come on.
Oh, of course. All potential donors, all those heavy-pocketed people up there in Cleveland, no question. Taking care of your health isn't always easy, but it should be at least simple. That's why for the last 2 years, I've been drinking AG1 every day, no exceptions, at home, on a hunting trip, camping off my motorcycle, no exceptions. It's just one scoop mixed in water once a day, every day, and it makes me feel ready to get moving. That's because each serving of AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre and probiotics, and more. It's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. I like to have it in the morning. I have a 12 ounce of water, so right off the bat, I'm helping my hydration every single morning. This is the one product, if I had to recommend one, I'd recommend this one to elevate your health. It's AG1, and that's why I partnered with them for 2 years. So if you want to take ownership of your health, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1 year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/aggressivelife. That's drinkag1.com/aggressivelife. Get yourself some. I want to get into your project in just a second. The last question on this, though, is: was there a time, Mark, where you felt like I made it? I made it. I've arrived. Not arrived as far as I'm not going to evolve and do new things, but this movie thing, I'm good at it, and I'm going to be able to pay the bills with this. And yeah, I'm in. Was there a point or a picture where that happened for you?
I think the easy answer is no. I don't ever. I know how hard it is. I know the challenges, and when you look at life, you got to look forward. And if you're always looking at your rear view mirror, in my case, if I'm looking at my posters on my wall and saying, "Oh, I did that, and I did that, I did that," you're not looking forward. And so I don't ever feel that comfortable because yes, I can, let's say, dine off a little bit of what I've done to help me get the next thing going, but I can't just rely on that. I need to get up the next morning and do the same thing I did to get those things going. So I never feel like, oh, I've made it. I've had some success and I'm very appreciative of it. But I also know if I'm going to continue in this business, I have to work just as hard to do it again and again. And it's not a given, and it's only getting harder. And that's just the way the world seems to be for all of us.
When you sell these properties to whoever, a studio, Netflix, that means that you aren't seeing any royalties or residuals or trickle stream kickback, right? It's just make it and done and you're out, or are there still funds that are coming your way, like an insurance salesman always gets something as long as the premiums are paid?
Yeah, I mean, every deal is slightly different, and there's net profits is a famous term that we use to, when things are starting to make money. Residuals is another thing. As a director, I'm part of the Directors Guild, and so I'll get residuals on anything that I direct. So
Okay.
there is money to be made downstream. It's just, you know if Netflix makes your movie, and this is one of the reasons that there was a strike 2 years ago, if Netflix makes your movie or TV show, you're probably not going to see any more money from them. And that was a
Right.
thing that really upset a lot of the creatives, because why is Netflix getting all the profits and you're off of your hard labor? I mean, yes, they paid you, but that was the big fight.
Right. And then they don't do a second season, which is when you could really make some jack. They don't do a second season, third season, even if it was a runaway hit. Yeah, there was some credible beefs there, but everything is changing in culture. It's just a crazy time. Which I don't know. Maybe it's always been a crazy time. Maybe I just think it's a crazy time because it's an odd several years relative to the rest of my life. But maybe that's just the way it goes over every 40, 50 year span. I don't know.
I think it just keeps changing. I mean, everything keeps changing. I mean, if you think about it, go back in time. Even 2008 was a really rough year for everybody, right? I mean, that was the market crash, and housing crashing and all that, and everybody panicked. And so I think there are always going to be changes, and we just need to be accepting of the fact that there's changes. And you know, VHS came in, and I don't know what it was, the 80s or whatever. That changed the world, because all of a sudden you could watch movies at home, right? But then DVDs came out and wiped out that VHS market. But then, okay, great, you can watch DVDs. Now streaming has wiped out DVDs, and so you just have to go with the times. That technology is moving fairly fast at this point, and maybe even faster as AI kicks in. But you still gotta work hard and be creative and figure out where your place in the world is.
I remember in 1996 sitting down with a couple eggheads, really high techie, smart dudes, and they were talking about cable and being able to basically streaming. And nobody in 1996 ever thought you'd be able to have the bandwidth to stream things, that you would actually need that coaxial cable going through the ground to every device. And I remember them saying, it can never work. It can never work. But one of them said, well, I don't know. You never know. You never know. Well, here, of course, everything has changed. And it just makes me go, what is is there a next thing? I mean, is there something beyond streaming? What would possibly be beyond streaming? Holographic image of Ben Affleck and the Accountant 3D right in front of me, either a foot high or two. I don't know. It's hard to imagine anything beyond this. Can you imagine anything beyond it, Mark?
I think there will be something beyond it. I don't know what that is, and I just, you have to accept that time will advance it, and it's happening faster with the AI. I mean, they're making things happen that we would never have guessed 2 years ago with AI, right? And so I just feel like you just have to open up your brain and go, it's going to happen. The timeline is who knows what, but go for the ride. Don't fight it. I think that's the problem, is people want to fight what's changing. It's just, the world's always changing. Everything's always
Right.
changing. You just have to accept that and get with the times. And you know what? Update your phone, because you know what? That's just a practice of getting up for the latest times, right? The newest things coming out, and you just got to keep moving forward with it, as opposed to fighting it.
Boy, AI, that's another one. Your industry is just getting pummeled left and right, or at least creatives in your industry. When I look at what AI does, I go, my gosh, film crews, B-roll film crews, the stuff that comes out of there is insane. We were in the midst of developing a children's book based on the 5 Marks for Man. One of the books I wrote that people actually buy and read. Most of them
Heard
don't buy
about
them or
it.
read them.
Yes.
but that one did. We're like, okay, hey, let's keep building this brand. And so we were looking and doing a children's book. And one of our guys who's on our team, Seg, he just figured out the AI thing and just made this children's book with these unbelievable characters. You'd have thought you'd hire the best illustrator in the world to some new technique, and go to publishers. They're like, who's your illustrator? We need to really know who your illustrator is. We're not telling you. No. And then finally we told them it was AI. They were just like mind blown. This was, I don't know, 6 months ago that was,
Yep.
just
Yep.
utterly mind blown. And then of course they're going, I don't know, can we use AI images in a book? Does that violate whatever? Everything has changed. It's really interesting. All right, Mark, let's talk about where we met. You and I met with a mutual friend, Hal, who was on The Aggressive Life, who is the founder and the CEO of Convoy of Hope. Fantastic organization. We had him on here. He told his story. I cried again with his story. Every time he's around, I try to have him tell a story. And as I tell him the story, just to remind you, well, maybe you should tell a story, Mark. I'm curious. You're the storyteller. Why don't you tell the genesis of his story, and then we'll get into why you know his story so well. I'm curious how you will tell it.
So Hal Donaldson was in Northern California, grew up, and when he was 12 years old, his dad and mother were driving in a car, and a drunk driver crossed the center line and smacked into their parents' car, killing his father and very much hurting his mother. And so he ended up growing up on a very fine line of poverty and without much hope in his world, but. He was a creative type himself, and writing was one of his passions. He wanted to be a journalist. He wanted to look out for people that had less than, it's sort of how he'd grown up. And so he was striving to become something as a writer. And then along the way, he kept running into the harder parts of life and seeing other people and their suffering. And through his travels of journalism and actually writing books, he ended up meeting Mother Teresa. And when he met Mother Teresa, she said, what are you doing for the poor and suffering? And he had no answer for that. And something in his head clicked. And at that point, he started thinking about what he could do. And soon thereafter, he started a charity organization called Convoy of Hope, which really helps people in need, whether it's disaster services. They feed over 600,000 kids around the world every day. They help women in impoverished countries start businesses. They help farmers learn how to farm. They've grown from this small, tiny little organization in Hal and Dory's house into this extremely large, extremely successful charity that covers the entire world. And really, it's so heartwarming and so awe-inspiring to see what he's done with his life and with his determination and his hustle, his desire to help others. That it shook me to the core as well, and I think that's what that's why you've been crying hearing his story, but it really it moved me to an immense level.
His origin story, which is, I think, so moving. His origin story, the key point for me is when the parents were taking the kids to the church because the babysitter didn't show up. They turn around because they somehow find out that the babysitter is there. I don't know how they found that out because this is before cell phones. They turn around, go back, drop the kids off. Then on their way to the church meeting, they get killed. Cops come to his house, the babysitter, and says, flashing lights, neighbors start coming out, and they announce that parents are dead, or one parent's dead, the one is probably mortally wounded. Mother was not right for the rest of her life and struggled for a long time. And the seminal moment for me that always grips me is he says, the cops turns to the neighbors and said, would anybody like to take these children? And he said it felt like 5 minutes and no one said anything, which probably wasn't 5 minutes. It was much less. But you just picture that little kid going, does anybody want me? It's not just I've lost my parents, but like, does anybody want me? And then a couple saying, we'll take them. And they live in a trailer. They've already got a family of 4 and they're in a trailer. Now they're going to take on 3 more kids. Man. I thought that story just has me, kills me. Anyway, you've heard.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. Nail that, please. That's amazing. Why would I nail that? Okay, cat's out of the bag. Mark is going to be doing a story on Convoy of Hope, and on how. So, Mark, when did you get the idea to do a story on this, make a movie of this? What's talk about aggressive move, man? Okay, it's seriously, anybody would love to have you on their podcast, because who wouldn't want the producer of The Accountant and Ozark? Of course, anybody would. But when I sat there, I heard your story going like, wait a minute, why would top grade A producer material who wins with first of class art do something that many would see as a step down? You're going to do a story based on a Christian nonprofit. You're going to do a movie. Are you going to join the Farley brothers now, or whoever the brothers are that always do the stuff from Sherwood Baptist? Is Farley brothers good guys? I'm sure. I don't know them personally, but is this going to be like Mark steps into Christian productions, and it's a really aggressive move that you don't have to make. Just keep nailing Ozark, but something gripped you about the story, and you're like, no, I want to do this. Why? Why would you make this aggressive move and unorthodox move?
It all boils down to, I sat down with Hal after I went to one of his events, and
you're probably listening to me right now. You're probably listening to me and going, gosh, I hadn't thought about that before. Maybe
no,
I
not
should back out.
Not at all. I went to a Convoy of Hope event, and they did their presentation of what they're up to, and it's very impressive. You hear and see Hal's story as we sort of told it, and I met with Hal afterwards, and he said, "Well, what did you think of the presentation?" And I'm like, "I think it's great." And he's like, "Well, how can we do it better?" And I'm like, "You don't have a problem with your presentations. You have a problem with your marketing problem, that I don't know anything about Convoy of Hope, and I'm fairly well read, and I know what the world looks like, and I've never heard of you, and yet you're one of these larger organizations. That's a marketing problem, and you need to market to the world." And I think that's really, his eyes lit up, and I said, and the best way to do that is you make a movie, because you're not going to spend the ad dollars that Ford spends or Coca-Cola spends to put ads everywhere, right? You're just not. But if you make a movie, then you can put that movie in front of millions and millions and millions of people that will learn not only your story, which is heart-wrenching and engaging and exciting and inspiring. You also have people learn about how Convoy came to be and what they do, and by doing that, you can open their hearts to help your organization. And I was saying, you don't necessarily need to just go to theaters, which you're going to go to theaters. You're going to find it on streaming, but you can go to film festivals all around the world and introduce the movie and Convoy. You can go to churches all around the world and introduce your story and Convoy, and that will open up more hearts to help Convoy do what they're already doing. And they're already doing it so well. Let them do what they do. They just need more people to know about it, so that they can have more people help them donate and help them volunteer to be even bigger and do even more than they already do, which is already extraordinary. But there's something I learned from Hal. There's never a shortage of need. There's always going to be more need. So if you can step up and meet the need, which is what Convoy tries to do, because you have more resources, because you have more people to help out, then it's really important. So then the writer wrote the script, and I was reading the script for the fifth time, and at some point I read it, and I just said, "Oh, I think I'm supposed to direct this movie." And I didn't. It wasn't like I had set out to do that. I was developing it. I was going to find a director, but something in me just said, I need to help, and I need to do more in this world to help people in need. And I can't do it myself. I'm not set up to do that. Convoy is. So if I can help Convoy help more people, then I'm helping more people, right? And so my goal is to help Convoy by getting their message out there of who they are, so that more people can find them, help them do what they need to do. And I think this comes from me just getting a little older, having my successes in entertainment, but then realizing I haven't necessarily helped the world other than maybe some excitement and some laughs and whatnot. But if I can help the world on a bigger scale, this is my opportunity. And so I want to do everything in my power. And it came upon me. It was like, this is a very important thing for me to do.
I love that.
So I am determined to do that. and that's what we're setting out on right now.
Many people think that if they're going to impact the world, they're going to have to leave their day job and go work for a nonprofit or something like that. And maybe, but I love what you're doing in that you're saying, I'm really good at telling stories in movies and scripts and directing and producing. I'm really, really good at it. So why don't I do my job, except do it in a venue that helps the mission? I think it's fantastic.
That was very well said. Maybe better than I said it, but yes, I 100% agree. I won't be good at what Hal does. I won't be good at what his team does.
Right.
When they go to disasters, I mean, they were in L.A. here, and they're still here. Looking out for people that lost their houses in the fire. They're in North Carolina. People lost their houses in the hurricane. They're there. They're doing it. I'm not good at that. I have no
Right.
use for. I'm not very useful for them for that. But if I can use my skill sets to help them do their job, I think we'll all be better off. And so
Yeah,
that's
they've
my
got
real hope is.
distribution centers everywhere, all over the country, all over the world. They just show up and help in crazy way. So where's the project stand right now, Mark? What's your next hurdle? Like, and who's going to play how? Like, if you could get the current Brad Pitt with AI to look younger, that would look like Hal when he was younger. I couldn't believe he was such a stud when he was younger. Hal, not that I'm not attracted to you right now, but when he was younger, those pictures, he was a Brad Pitt. Crazy. Who's going to play him? Who's your dream?
I mean, that was funny because I ended up getting a lot of photos and trying to piece together their lives, and through it all, I saw how handsome Hal was, and how beautiful Dory was, and what a spunky couple they were. As they went through their years together, and so it really was a challenge to figure out who's going to be that person. And so we have a list. I don't necessarily want to broadcast it because
Oh,
obviously
come on, Mark. Make an
it was,
aggressive
but
move. Give us some names. Come on, just amongst us friends.
I mean, if you got Austin Butler to play Hal, that's kind of what he looked like back in the day. I mean,
Oh, there you go.
let's start there, and if he
Okay.
says yes, that's great. But I don't count on that. But that's kind of the level
That's
of
cool.
style and coolness that he was cool, handsome, aggressive, wanted to make things happen, and still wants to make things happen. And
Yes.
their hearts are so big and so determined to help people that it really is just inspiring.
Right. So is that where the project is right now? You're trying to get actors,
So
or what's next?
so we have a script. We have a production manager working on the budget and trying to figure out all those elements. We're about to go out to casting, but right now we're in the fundraising part of the equation, which is a little bit different than I normally do. I can't take this type of project to the Hollywood studios. That's not their thing, and I also don't. I want to be honorable to Hal and to Convoy of Hope and what they're doing. So it needs to be made a certain way. So I'm actually am looking for investors that want to do something bigger, that want to be part of something that makes a difference in the world, because it's not just a movie for us, it's to make a difference. And so we're looking for investors that are willing to put up some of the capital, and then we'll be casting. We're looking at locations now, and with any luck, we'll raise our budget in the near future, and then be off shooting in the fall.
This isn't some internal marketing movie that they're going to go around and show in churches. I mean, you're gonna work your noogies off to get it distributed on Netflix, Amazon Prime, wherever, and have it distributed alongside all the other movies. This is like a legit, real deal movie.
This has nothing to do with Convoy is actually not technically involved with the movie. I mean, they're obviously going to benefit from it, but they technically are not involved with the movie. This is meant to tell Hal and Dory's story that led to Convoy of Hope. It's just such a compelling story that it's worth telling on its own merits.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, this will be in theaters. This will be, on Amazon.
Right.
This will be on Netflix at some point. This will be around the world. This will be in theaters around the world. This will be, seen on airplanes at some point.
Yes.
It'll go through all those
Yes.
channels. I'm just throwing out the church and the festivals thing because I want to market the movie to people that are inclined to go help, and pick up the phone, or go online and look up Convoy of Hope.
It's an unbelievable story. It's not just the origin story. It's him interacting with Mother Teresa. It's being homeless in what 5 cities in the country for several nights to learn what the plight of the poor is. It's traveling around the world and his adventures around the world. It's all that stuff. It's striking. So let's say I want to invest. Mark, what do you have to pay to play?
I mean, we're not working off of pennies and
Yeah.
and dimes here. So I think it's people that have real money to invest that aren't going to be give up their last dollar to do this. I mean, I feel like it's people that want to make a difference, that have enough money that they can give. I mean, whether it's $1 million or if it's $5 million or more, or if you have $500,000 or something that you want to to invest
So that's a minimum.
and make money back, or you want to donate and the money will go back to Convoy as it makes profits. That's another angle we can do as well. But the whole idea is this is going to help. Yeah, yes, you could make money, and you probably will make money off of this movie. But
This is an investment.
yes, and it's an investment in the mission too. It's not just an investment in the movie itself.
Right. How much is if someone gives $500,000? What's general terms on that?
It would be we get 20% on the money, which is the Hollywood standard. So you'll make 20% of return, and then you'll get a portion of the net profits, which are equal to the percentage of the amount of the budget that you gave.
And then you'll have Ben Affleck come to your birthday party because he's tied into this. So you're going to promise Ben Affleck is at your beck and call, and Jason Bates is going to come and cut your
Jason
hair.
Bates might show up. Jason Bateman will not. Okay. That's the
Bates,
difference.
Okay. Oh man. Well, I think that'd be pretty cool. When I was compelled by this vision and Mark's ability, and I thought, man, who knows? I want to have him on the aggressive life, not just because he's made some aggressive moves, but I don't know. Maybe we got a number of folks here that want to engage with this project. It'd be pretty stinking cool to go with the proven winner who's got vision, like Mark does, and be a part of something that what Convoy of Hope has done. It's a really rare, really, really cool project. So, Mark, if someone I might be able to do that kind of money. I want to talk more. How do they find you?
I guess there's two ways.
We could also do this. You could also have me screen them in case you're concerned about getting too many.
Well, they can certainly just reach out to your program and do that. That's obviously one way to do.
Yep.
I have a queries at zerogravitymanagement.com. That is an easy access to my company. Queries with a Q. And then info at convoyofhope.org is another way to go. I mean, they will screen it and pass it along as well. But they those 3 avenues are probably the easiest to do. And we're here to talk because we just know this is important. I mean, like you said, there's no reason for me to do this movie. Even Convoys that kicked themselves and said, "Why, Mark, are you doing this?" And it's just that important. And so I wanted to make sure that we're doing it to the best of our ability at the highest level possible, so that it becomes what it needs to be, so that it can do what it needs to do.
Right. All right, Mark, let's close with this if you're up for it. We got a lightning round. I'm looking at these questions. Dirt, help me work up these questions in the lightning round. I think they're brilliant. I'm going to give you a sentence, and you got to you got to answer like a bolt of lightning. Like no long meandering stuff like you Hollywood people do. You beat around the bush. You don't get the point. Bam, right to the point. Can you do it?
No, but I'll try.
All right, try anyway. Here we go. These are fun. I'm actually looking forward to hearing this. Your favorite episode of Ozark?
The first one.
The first one.
Especially when the body hit the ground. It took everybody by surprise.
Oh gosh, I don't remember.
Go watch
that.
it.
Wait, body.
Go watch it. That was a big turning point for the opening episode.
How do I not remember? Okay, Dirt, have you seen Ozark?
I haven't seen that either.
What is your problem?
I gotta catch up.
Dirt, you're fired.
Dirt, time for you to get more of the world in you, Dirt. Time for you to get more dirty.
I gotta
That's
watch
what
some
it's
TV.
Time to get more morally nuanced. Yeah, that's what you need, Dirt. You need more TV in your life.
That's it.
Yeah, right. Okay. Movie or TV show you wish you'd made?
Terminator 2.
I like it. Biggest influence on your creative style?
Uh, Ridley and Tony Scott. If I could be the third Scott brother, that would be amazing.
What was the first film or TV show that you saw that you said, I want to do this for a career?
Terminator 2.
Terminator 2.
And I'll give you
Okay.
the moment. I'll give you the moment. I'm sitting in the theater, and out walks the Terminator out of the fire and reforms himself
Yes.
and it was just that visual effect right there hit me of like, oh, this is the future of what they can do in
Interesting.
movies. And so it was, I was already in the movie, but that really signaled this is, I want to blow stuff up, and I want to make movies that where you can blow things up.
The year was 19, I want to say 88, 89. I was with my buddies. We went to go to the movie theaters. We didn't know anything was out. We just stumbled into this one theater, and it was the first Terminator. And I had no idea what I was getting in for. That first Terminator blew my freaking mind. I mean, blew my mind, and I had a hard time sleeping at night because, wait a minute, if that happened, then not this. And then about 2 months ago, I was in some hotel room, and I turned on the TV, and it was on. I said, let's watch this. It mesmerized me again. That movie had some balls.
Absolutely, it was amazing. And it was, that obviously is a very close second to Terminator 2, but the technology from when you saw the first one to the second one
Yep.
was leaps and bounds, and Cameron was really just pushing it so hard, and it was just, it blew my mind of what we're capable of. And now we're just seeing it everywhere. It's normal, but back then it was not normal.
Yep. All right, last one. Biggest aggressive mistake you've made on set and what you've learned from it.
Biggest Somebody screwed up very badly on a set that I was directing with movie stars, and I got upset with them on set and let them know that I was upset with them on set. And it, what I realized through that is not only did the guy who did the thing wrong, and he was definitely in the wrong, hear it, but it rippled through the entire crew, and it gave them another view of me that I wasn't really, they didn't know the whole context of what had gone down.
Right.
And so it took me a while for them to understand, why I was upset. And so I realized at that point, you have to know when to use it and know when to hold it, and find the time and the quiet moments to have those conversations. Because as a leader and as a director, you are leading, you you have to understand people are following you, are looking up to you, and you have to respect that honor that they're giving you, that they're doing that. And so you have to be smart about it. That was a long answer. I apologize.
No, it's a good answer. Thank you. Mark, is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't talked about?
Do you want to know what's coming out from me?
Yeah, of course.
Uh, just hit the rental and buy platforms, the Amazons and Apples and YouTube or wherever you watch your movies. It's called Better Man. It's the story of a very, very famous Robbie Williams, a musician in the out of the UK and Europe, who was humongous in the 90s. It's his biopic. It's a excellent movie. It's very exciting, by the director who did The Greatest Showman, and
Huh.
that just came out. Um, I have a movie called Looney Tunes coming out March 14th, which is
What's that about?
Looney Tunes. It's a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Really? Is
Uh,
it a documentary of the Looney Tunes?
no, no, it's actually just a Looney Tunes movie. It's a card. It's animated. So that comes
Interesting.
out March 14th. Um, I have a TV show I shot last year in the Netherlands. It's a global show, but I shot it in the Netherlands. It takes place there, based on a true story, called Safe Harbor. Alfie Allen from Game of Thrones, Jack Leeson from Game of Thrones, Cole Meany are all in it. I'm putting together the domestic deal, as we talked about, getting homes for it now, so it'll be in the U.S. in the near future, called Safe Harbor. And then April 25th, put this in your calendar, and Dirt better put it in his calendar for sure. The Accountant 2 will be in
Oh, come
theaters.
on. Accountant
Yes,
2?
Accountant 2 in
Come
theaters
on.
worldwide.
Wow.
So
How
there
have
you
I
go.
not known that this was coming out? This is insane.
You live in Cincinnati.
Okay. Is it Ben Affleck again, or is it somebody else who's on the spectrum?
Ben Affleck and Jon Bernthal. Yep, they're back at it.
Wow. Jon Bernthal, he's another one of those guys. Like, I've never, I think it's the same with Ben Affleck, too. I've never seen them in a movie or a piece I didn't like. Like, anything they choose to act in, I like. Bernthal is, he's a real talent as well. That's
So
cool.
talented and so fun and entertaining to watch, and just you never know what you're going to get. He's really great.
If you don't know Bernthal, he is the guy who was on Punisher for a couple seasons, and he was the initial badass in Walking Dead, and been in a bunch of other stuff as well. Just a very complex, deep guy. I like him a lot. Man, Mark, thanks so much for coming on, and I could keep going and going because you got a wealth of stories and stuff that are different than our average guest. So thanks for coming over to Little Old Beans podcast in Cincinnati, and it's great to meet you at our last event and again, and I look forward to, hopefully, we bump shoulders again. I love you, man. You're a good man.
Well, let's do it. I appreciate it, and it's been fun. And you're always entertaining to talk to, and so keep being you and keep being aggressive.
All right, Mark. Will do. Hey, friends, you heard something here for you. You're probably not going to go out and write a movie or produce a movie, but I tell you what, there's something here you can do. That's why we call this Aggressive Life. This is not the interesting thoughts life, it's the aggressive life. So maybe you and your day job, there's a way you can serve somebody by doing your day job. Maybe you can learn to tell your story to somebody else in a compelling way. Maybe you can, I don't know what it is, but hopefully you learned something from Mark and from me today. Go out and you live your life, and we'll see you next time on The Aggressive Life. Thanks for joining us on this journey toward aggressive living. Find more resources, articles, past episodes, and more at briantome.com. My new book, a 60-day devotional called The 5 Marks for Man, 60 Days to a Powerful Life, along with all the other books in the 5 Marks library, are open right now on Amazon. Be sure to leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. Then send an email to that's dirt at briantome.com to get a free Aggressive Life sticker. Find more on Instagram at Brian Tome. The Aggressive Life is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.